Hey, thanks so much for tuning into the Daily Dose for Spiritual Growth. Today is Friday. Happy Friday, everyone. Hopefully you have been encouraged, challenged through these chapters in Exodus. Today we're talking about how Pharaoh actually let the people go. After all of these plagues, Pharaoh finally let them go. But then it wasn't over yet because once again, Pharaoh's heart was hardened and goes after the Israelites after he lets them go. And they're in this conundrum here. They're in this crossroad, and they don't know where to go. Have you ever been there? Have you ever been in this situation where it's like you've got this mountaintop in front of you, and then you've got this giant valley right behind you? Both situations aren't good, and you don't know what to do. You don't even know where to go. Well, that's the situation, the circumstance where the Israelites were in. And Moses, the leader, has to deal with their complaining. And listen how Moses responds to God and how he responds to the people. Starting in verse 10 of Exodus chapter 14. As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up, and there were the Egyptians marching after them. They were terrified and cried out to the Lord. They said to Moses, "Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us out to the desert to die? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt?" So what are they doing? They're complaining. They see a situation. They see this circumstance. They're like, "You imbecile. Like, what are you doing, Moses? Like, we were in a better situation when we were in slavery under Pharaoh." And he says, and then they even go on to say, "Didn't we say to you in Egypt, leave us alone? Let us serve the Egyptians. It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the desert." So let's just pause there for a second. If you were a leader in that situation, how would you respond to them? What would you do? Listen to how Moses responds. Moses answered the people, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians will see that you see today, you'll never see again. The Lord will fight for you, and all you need to do is to be still." Then the Lord said to Moses, "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on. Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea to divide the water so that the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground." What absolutely amazes me is Moses' leadership in that situation. And then also how easily we can look at our circumstances like the Israelites and start complaining. Start to complain to one another. Start to complain to leadership. Start to complain to God. Like, what are you doing? And Moses responds with a still confidence to the Israelites and says, "Hey, it's going to be okay. God's going to protect us. He's actually going to fight for us." And then the Lord speaks to Moses, "Hey, let's just go. No more time and waiting here. Let's go." See, what was in front of them was the Red Sea, was a giant sea. And then what was behind them was an angry mob of Egyptians. No place to go. So it seemed like an impossible situation, but we have to understand with God, nothing is impossible. See, we need to recognize that God is in control and he's fighting for us. So many times we put a limitation on God who is limitless when we need to do what Moses encouraged the Israelites to do. Let's just be still. So many times we're busybodies. We're like, "Oh, we gotta do this." And it's like, what if we just need to be still and say, "God, I'm going to wait on you. I'm going to move, but you're going to need to guide me as I move forward here. And I'm not going to allow my circumstances to choose to blame and to dictate my choice of love or hate towards other people or leadership. But God, I'm going to choose to recognize who you are. I'm going to choose to wait on you, and I'm going to choose to respond when you tell me to." And I want to encourage you to do that today. If there are situations in your life that you have a tendency to complain, instead of complaining to your boss or instead of complaining to a family member or best friend or on TikTok or wherever else that you have a platform, choose to go to the Lord and see what God has to say to you. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for the Daily Dose for Spiritual Growth.